Hello there and welcome to the Double Zero channel. We do just one thing on this channel and it's to take these two dice and roll them, and we see how long it takes before we see a double zero on the dice. Now the hypothetical odds are just 1 in 100, but we've got a massive sheet that can hold 1,000, because real world conditions, as any lottery player knows, are not the same as hypothetical ones. If you would like to play along, please write down your guess now. All I ask is that you don't reveal the result in the comments, so other people can watch the videos and enjoy them. There will likely be a few more things to explain as we go along, but let's get underway with two new dice this time, slightly more contrast with the purple background. We'll see how they got on. I've got others as well, but I am procrastinating. So roll number one. And that's a 4 and a 0. Now, only the double zero counts. So if it's a 0 and something else, that does not count for our purposes. Although we do count other doubles as we go along, but that's purely for interest. And that's a 2, but also a 0. That is a 6 and a 9. And we have another 0, but a 6. And that's a 2 and a 3. And that's a 1 and an 8. A 7 and 4. And that is a double 9. So like I said, we'll put that down for interest. We'd expect to see about 10 doubles on the way to 100. Hypothetically, of course. Refer to previous speech. And that is a 6 and a 3. We have a 0, but a 3. And that is a 6 and a 9. I know it doesn't really matter, but I do like to turn them around just to make sure I'm announcing the right thing. And that is a double 6. Great if we were doing it with D6s, but we're doing it with D10s. And that is a 1 and a 9. And a 4 and a 1. And we have a 9 and a 3. And that's a 4 and a 9. And a double 5. Third double of the session. And that is a 6 and a 6, so another double. But not the double we're after. And that's a 2 and a 5. A 9 and a 7. And that's a double 2, up to our fifth double already after 20 rolls. A 5 and a 1. And that's a 0, but a 5. A 1 and a 6. And that's a 5 and an 8. We have there a 9 and a 4. Followed by a 0, but a 9. And that's a 2, but a 0. And that's a 3 and a 9. We have there a 9 and an 8. Oops, get away from me. A 5 and a 3. And that is a 6 and a 1. A 6 and an 8. And that's a 0 but an 8. Remember, it's 00 we're after. We're also, on this channel, we have very minimal editing, so if a dice falls on the ground, for instance, you'll probably see it happen. And that's a 1 and a 4. And we have there a 4 and an 8. A 7 and a 6. And that's a 1 and a 9. That's a 0 but a 6. An 8 and a 1. And that's a 4 and a 3. We have a 2 and a 1. And that is a 6 and a 9. A double 2, and that's a 6 double of the session so far. We are coming up to 50 rolls, and each 50th roll we do a massive one with 2 hands. So if we get that far, that is what we'll do there. But we continue. That is a 6 and a 1. And that's a 0 but a 2. And that's an 8 and a 4. A 0 but a 7. Dice gods are teasing us today. All these zeros and all these doubles as well. And that's a 7 and a 6. That's a 1 and an 8. And for the 50th roll, we make it a big one. So there we go. And a 0 but a 2. You've got to be careful with this cup, by the way, as you've seen. Dice has already fallen on the floor, and the shape of this is perfect for just letting them fly off into space. So anyway, the dice haven't shown us a 00 yet, so let's go on for roll 100. And your next one is a 6 and a 2. And that is a double 9. Seventh double of the session. And that's a 5 and an 8. And we have a 7 and a 1. That's a 1 and a 2. And that's a 4 and a 7. We have there a 5 and a 3. And that is a 6 and a 9. 7 and a 2. That is a 0 but a 2. And there's no points for a nearly. A 5 and 3. And that is a 9 and a 6. We have a 0 but an 8. And that is a 5 and a 9. A 0 but a 6. A 0 but a 4. And that's a 7 but a 1. A 0 but a 4. A 7 and a 5. And we have a 1 and a 6 there. That's a 0 but a 5. A 9 and a 7. And that's a 9 and a 9. So that is another double. But not the double we're looking for. A 0 but a 7. That's a 2 and a 1. We have there a 6 and a 2. And that's an 8 and a 9. A 6 and a 7. And that's a double 4. Bringing us to our 9th double of the session. And that's another double. That brings us to the 10th of the session. So we're on roll 60, 70, 80 at the moment. We've got 10 doubles so far. That is roughly what you'd expect. So let's see how long it takes before double 0 presents itself. That's a 5 and a 2. And we have a 5 and an 8. 3 and a 9. 8 and a 7. And we have a 3 and a 2. That is a 6 and an 8. And a double 4. That's a 7 and a 4. And that is a 9 and a 4. 4 seems to want to come out an awful lot, but that's the way it happens. And we have a 7 and a 5. A double 5. And that is a 1 and an 8. Excuse me. That is a 0 but an 8. A 0 but a 1. Again, no points for a nearly. Roll 95 is 9 and 6. So when we reach the 100, we'll do the old double-hander again. But first, 2 and a 4. And that's a 6 and a 4. That is a 7 and a 1. It's a 2 and a 3. And for roll 100, we have a 6 and a 2. So, as I said at the start, the hypothetical odds 1 in 100. We haven't achieved it so far, but there is still plenty of time to do so as we carry on for roll 150. And that's a 3 and an 8. That's an 8 and a 1. 4 and 3. That's a 3 and a 7. And we have a double 7 for our 13th double of the session. And we have a 1 and a 4 there. Oh, sorry. Sorry, it just settled on a 6. Either way, it's not a crucial one. We carry on. And that's a 0, but a 7. You do sometimes get these edge rolls, but they're thankfully quite rare. That's a 2 and a 9. As long as they're not crucial, really, we don't really care about that. And that's a double 7. We do care about doubles, kind of. 7 plus 7 is 14, and that is our 14th double. We have a 2 and a 9 there. And that's a 6 and an 8. And that's a 2 and a 9. A 0, but a 4. A 3 and a 4 there. And that's a 9 and a 5. And we have a double 1. 15th double. And that's a 1 and a 4. That is a 5 and a 1. And a 7 and an 8. A 1 and a 2. At 7 and 9. And we have there a 9 and a 6. A 6 and a 2. That's a 6 and a 4. A 3 and 8. And that is a 9 and a 6. I'd just like to be sure. Sometimes I get confused if the 6s and 9s are upside down. I wish whoever decided on numbers had chosen on different ones. However, we're stuck with what we've got. That's a 1 and a 3. And we have a double 9 onto the pile there. That is a 6 and a 3. And that's a 2 and a 3. A 1 and a 6. That's a 7 and a 4. And we have a double 5 there onto the pile. A 0 but an 8. And we have a 0 but a 7. A 0 but a 4. And we have a 1 and a 3. That's a 0 but a 5. A 0 but a 2. If there's any chance of 0 and a 0, that would be fantastic. But we have a 4 and a 9 instead. A 9 and a 3. And that's a 6 and a 1. We have a 3 and a 5. A 0 but a 4. and a 5 and a 1. We're approaching roll 150. If we do manage to get there, we'll have a double hander to celebrate. But first, a 0 but a 6, a 1 and an 8. That's a double 3 onto the pile. 18's double of the session. And that's a 5 and a 6. And the two-hander for roll 150, we have a 4 and an 8, rather anticlimactically, but we go on for roll 200. That's a 5 and an 8. And we have a 1 and a 7. An 8 and a 5. And that's a 1 and a 5. A 2 and a 4. And that's a 0 but a 9. And that is a 1 and a 6. And a 6 and a 2. And we have a 1 and an edge roll there. Let us just gently tap, see if it settles. Yep, a 1 and a 6. Not a crucial one, but I do like a definite answer. We carry on. It's a 0 but a 4. And that's a 3 and an 8. A double 4, bringing us nearly up to 20 doubles. But none of them are double 0 so far. And that's a 5 and a 9. A 5 and a 9. And a 5 and an 8. And that is a 0 but a 6. And a 0 but a 5. And that's a 9 and a 5. And we have a 6 and a 1. A 7 and a 1. And we have a 3 and a 9. That's a 4 and a 3. And we have a double 0. Finally, finally. So the hypothetical odds, of course, are 1 in 100. But we got it in 150, 160, 170, 173. And along the way, we saw 19 other doubles. So that's about what we'd expect, to be honest, for that number of rolls, even if it took us a bit longer than 1 in 100 to get to the elusive double zeros. So thank you very much for watching, and you take care.